All right. Welcome, everybody, to the 2026 Northeast Ohio Pollinator Society Winter Webinar Series. I'm Suzanne. I'm the president of the society. And with me tonight is Renee Boronka from Western Reserve Land Conservancy and Devon Range from Western Reserve Land Conservancy. And a couple of little things. So the chat is open. You can put your questions there, but we also have the Q&A down below where I'll try and do my best to monitor through the chat. Sometimes that's a little tough, but if you put it in the Q&A, by the end of the night, we will answer your question. So getting into this, I will say I'll give the biographies of my presenters. So Renee is the Director of Conservation Education and Outreach at Western Reserve Land Conservancy. In this role, she organizes nature-based learning opportunities year-round for people of all ages. Programs include both in-person field trips as well as a prominent virtual series that is starting here on the 29th that attracts thousands of participants from throughout Ohio to the East Coast. In addition, she's part of a team of educators working to develop long-term solutions to improve access to nature for children growing up in urban areas. Renee is passionate about connecting people with nature through a variety of programs, from hikes to workshops to special events. She enjoys creating thoughtful and memorable nature experiences, firmly believing that a deep understanding of our natural world leads to a lifelong commitment to its protection. Renee has a bachelor's of science in natural resources from The Ohio State University and lives in Cleveland with her husband and their two cats, Benjamin and Trixie. And Devon is the community forester for Western Reserve for the Reforest Our City program. In his role, he helps identify potential tree planting partners and locations, creating planting plans, teaching volunteers about proper planting and maintenance practices, and manages over 1,200 trees maintained by the program. Devon went to Brush High School on Cleveland's east side before attending the University of Chicago, where he studied political science. He served as an AmeriCorps member with City Year City Year Cleveland before starting his career in arboriculture. Devon is an ISA certified arborist with experience in both the private and nonprofit sectors. He is also a committee chair for the Cleveland Tree Coalition, serves on several boards, including Heights Tree People, and coaches high school wrestling. So, welcome both of you. And
Thank you.
whoever wants to get started,
Yes, I'm
please
going to
feel
share my
free.
screen.
All right.
Does everything look good there?
Looks great.
Excellent. Okay. Let me get lined up here on my stuff. Oh, I was going to turn my video off so I'm not a talking head. Okay. So welcome. Thank you all for having me today. I'm Renee, as Suzanne said, and I'm happy to be here this evening. My plan is to set the stage for Devon's program, and I'm honored to be a part of this year's Northeast Ohio Pollinator Symposium. I'm not used to being on this side of the program. I'm usually in Suzanne's shoes. So hats off to you, Suzanne, because I know it's a stressful seat when you have lots of people watching and Zoom just decides to change lots of settings on you. So Devin and I thought it would be good to give a little background on the Land Conservancy before he covers our impactful work planting and nurturing a tree canopy in Cleveland. So I am here to set that stage. Western Reserve Land Conservancy is a conservation land trust, which means our primary goal is to limit development. We are Ohio's largest land trust, protecting close to 80,000 acres of land in Northeast Ohio. We are one of 8 land trusts in the state of Ohio to be accredited by the Land Trust Alliance, which means we have met the highest national standards of excellence and permanence in land conservation, demonstrating strong ethics, financial health, sound transactions, and a lasting commitment to stewardship. The Land Conservancy works to protect nature. We are unique, though, in that we work in 3 distinct areas: protecting natural habitats and landscapes, protecting ag land through farmland easements, and we strive to create vibrant, healthy cores within the cities that dot our service area, the largest of which being Cleveland. This is a map of the 29 county region that we serve. Each dot represents a project we played a role in conserving. To date, We've worked on 981 properties, which totals 79,783 acres of land. This map outlines the counties we work in. In addition to our conservation and farmland easement work, we play a critical role in assisting local conservation organizations and park districts in acquiring land that in turn they will own and manage. Three-fourths of the land we've protected is privately owned. Roughly 35,000 acres is held in conservation easement, which is a legal document attached to a deed of a property. This means no matter who owns the property, they must adhere to the terms of the easement. So even when land changes ownership, our stewardship team must meet with new landowners and make sure they fully understand their role to uphold the easement. We hold another 35,000 acres in farmland easements. I'm hoping many of you have seen our signs while driving around northern Ohio. With these easements, we are working to keep agricultural land in ag. But if a property owner decides they no longer wish to farm, that land will revert back to nature, never to be developed. The remaining acres, which total about 10,000 acres, the Land Conservancy owns outright, and we manage for rare species and diverse habitats. These make up what we call our signature parks and preserves. I'm going to highlight two of those tonight that are open year-round to the public, and I encourage you all to visit these sites. The first is our 116-acre Blue Heron Preserve in Newberry, Ohio. We acquired this in 2016. It was the site of the old Newberry sand and gravel mine. It had been abandoned for many years, and after spending several years restoring and reclaiming the land, Blue Heron Preserve was dedicated in 2023. It's a beautiful natural area, and I encourage you to go take a walk there. The old quarry ponds have been filled with water, and we enhance the edges of the ponds to accommodate habitat for fish and other invertebrates such as dragonflies. We utilize the old mining roads to create a system of trails throughout the property. And at the very bottom of the map, right in the center, you can see an overlook. It offers spectacular views of the waterfall found in the preserve's Category 3 wetlands, which were not impacted by the mining operation. The other preserve open all year round is our Oberlin Preserve. This is a 63-acre property. It features a beautiful established prairie as well as a rich wet woods. I encourage you to visit in late summer to see it in all of its glory, fluttering with butterflies and other pollinators. And this photo shows a picture of our chimney swift tower, which welcomed its first nesting pair in 2024. Now I'm going to go on to our work in Cleveland, where for the last over 10 years, we've been building community, planting trees, and building stronger connections to nature. Last year, we transformed an old school site in the city's Huff neighborhood into a 2.6-acre community park located adjacent to the existing Thurgood Marshall Recreation Center. This is the clean slate that we worked with that you can see here prior to any development. After engaging with the community, we developed a plan for the new park, which was dedicated last October. So here you can see our conceptual plan. And lastly, this is the Thurgood Marshall Green. It's featured here in these photos. It features 100 new trees, accessible pathways, a community pavilion for gathering and events, and two nature-based playgrounds, one for toddlers and one for kids that are a little older. And the kids were having a blast on this equipment when we dedicated it in October. And lastly, I want to mention that we were instrumental in Cleveland's Children's Outdoor Bill of Rights, a resolution passed by Cleveland City Council on Earth Day last year. This document details outdoor activities that every child in the city has a right to experience as they grow up. Cleveland's COBOR, as they are called, was composed by AP Environmental Science students at Cleveland's John Marshall High School. Over a year, we conducted a survey asking kids in the city, what do you like to do when you go outside? And the high school students disseminated that survey data and developed the Children's Outdoor Bill of Rights, as you see here. At the Land Conservancy, we are committed to helping children enjoy the benefits of time spent outside. And tonight, my colleague, Devon, is going to show you just how deeply committed we are to helping Cleveland kids walk down tree-lined streets in their neighborhoods. So I am turning things over to my colleague, Devon Range.
Thank you, Renee. And let me preface this by saying you heard that I coach wrestling. We had a tournament this past weekend, so my voice is a little hoarse. I was yelling at my kids a little too much, but thank you for bearing with me. Hopefully, I come across clear. So let me share
Sounds
my
good.
screen and get right into it. Oh, okay. All right. So Renee gave a really great overview of what the Land Conservancy does broadly. I'm going to dive into what the Reforest Our City program does in the city of Cleveland specifically. So I'll start with our mission, and that is to increase Cleveland's tree canopy by growing trees, advocating for mature trees, and empowering residents to do the same. Here's some examples in visual format of how that occurs, and I'll cover these in a little bit more detail. Before I get into that, we have 5 full-time staff members on the Reforest Our City team, myself included. Um, we have our tree care coordinator, Anna, the manager of community forestry, Tom, community forestry coordinator, Jen, and our newest member, our lead tree care technician, China. So before I get into some of the details of what Reforest Our City does, um, you don't have to, answer this in the chat or verbally, but just think about it. Which sidewalk would you rather walk on? Would you rather walk on the one on the left or the one on the right? And I know you guys are all pollinator people, at least as far as this seminar is concerned. So if you were a butterfly or another type of insect, which street would you rather be on? Now, Cleveland unfortunately has a declining tree canopy. We were once called the Forest City. People say, a squirrel could go from Lake Erie all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico without touching the ground. And Cleveland was very densely forested when it was first settled by the European settlers. But currently, our tree canopy is around 17% and hopefully stabilized at that point, but potentially declining even further. So, why trees? Why are trees important? So, when we talk to the public about trees, there's a lot of myths and misconceptions that people have about trees. They're viewed as a liability, but really, they provide three kind of buckets of benefits: uh, environmental, uh, human health, and they can stimulate the economy. Now, I'm going to go back in time about 80 years and show you a map. Many of you might be familiar with this, but this is a redlining map of Cleveland. This was used to basically say who could and could not get assistance in buying homes. And if you lived in the areas that are red or yellow, you were less likely to get assistance with buying a home as opposed to the green or blue areas. And that will become relevant later, you'll see. So one of the ways we kind of address the declining tree canopy is by doing these community tree plantings. And that fits into that first part of our mission, which is growing trees. So we plant trees. We try to get a neighbor uh, engagement in our tree plantings so that people feel some type of ownership when they walk down their street and they see trees that we've planted. They can say, "Oh, I helped plant that tree," and they're just another set of eyes taking care of those sites. And this is a map of, is a bit outdated. This is from 2024. But this is a map of all of the trees we've planted in the city of Cleveland. It doesn't look like much, but a lot of those dots are really close together. Um, this is probably several thousand trees on this map. This is the same map of those dots overlaid with the tree canopy data from the county. You can see that we concentrate primarily in areas that have low tree canopy. And again, the same dots are overlaid on that redlining map. And you can see a correlation between the areas that were redlined and areas that have low canopy or declining canopy. So that's where we focus our energy. This is a little bar chart of how many trees we've planted each year. You can see that the program started soft launch in 2014. We say 2015 is our actual start, but you can see that we've been ramping up our planting activities, and we're actually undergoing a business planning process to see how we can further expand how many trees we plant per year. This is Old Faithful. We call it Rocky. This is our truck that we do most of our maintenance activities from, one of two vehicles. This is our other vehicle, nice van, kind of a mobile billboard. And this is our new facility that we just moved into in July of last year. I think I'm actually in this photo. I am. And this has been a game changer. If you go back 2 slides ago, we used to operate out of this vacant lot in Kinsman, just a shipping container and a bunch of empty land, and that's where we operated. And now we've evolved to this facility with a warehouse and office space and these bays for our trees, and it's much nicer, I can tell you. So why am I talking about all this? A lot of people think that planting trees is the solution. You go and you plant a bunch of trees and you feel good and you think you did a great job. But in reality, trees need a lot of nurture and care in order to grow and thrive and survive after planting. So we have a 6-year maintenance program for every tree that we plant. The first 3 years, we water every summer, every week with 15 gallons of water. And you can see our crew primarily carries those in 5-gallon buckets. It's a lot of hard work in the heat of summer. And if you're from Northeast Ohio, you know that summers can get a little humid and hot. So we really are thankful for our interns and temporary staff that help us water in the summer. So why do we need to do this? Trees grow spontaneously in the forest and they don't seem to have a problem. Everyone, I would imagine, on this Zoom has been in a forest and can appreciate how trees are kind of self-sufficient, but the circumstances are not the same. The primary difference between a forest and the urban setting is the soil. So the soil does not contain all the nutrients that the trees need necessarily, and it primarily doesn't hold water in the same way. So that's why we need to be watering these trees weekly for those first 3 years so that they can establish. The second difference is the light. In a forest, all of the trees are pretty close together. They grow up straight, they seek out the light, and they grow in ways that are natural. In the urban setting, there's light in abundance. Light's coming from every direction. Trees are growing in all kinds of weird ways that they might not naturally grow in. And so after that third year of watering, we also provide young tree training, where we correct any um, hazardous growth patterns, conflicts with pedestrians or vehicular traffic, so that these trees are not a liability and they actually provide those ecosystem services without detracting from the experience of the neighbors. Here's a little chart of how much water we deliver per month. You can see that in those hot months in the summer, June, July, and August, we're providing a lot of water. But we also water in April, May, September, October if drought conditions are present. Every time our crews do an intervention, whether it's watering, pruning, picking up litter, they fill out these site reports and we keep record of all of these things. So I can go back, 3 years to a tree that might have been damaged and see, hey, in April of 2023, this tree sustained some deer damage, and we can monitor all of our trees at each site. It's another chart.
Oh, did we
Uh-oh.
lose Devon?
We lost Devon.
Oh, goodness. He'll log back in.
Yeah, I'm sure. It's a lot of work. I can't imagine carrying 15 gallons of
Oh
water
my
in 5 gallon
gosh.
buckets but like I wonder how far they have to travel, like
Well,
how far off the street.
I've joined them for a lot of those watering days, and they have to carry them far. And I'm
Mm,
always like, like they set them next to the trees, so volunteers sometimes are just kind of, dumping the buckets very carefully on the
yeah.
base of the trees to make sure the water gets absorbed nicely and stuff. Um, but I mean, I know he's going to get into it, but they not only water the trees while they're there, they weed them, and they put mulch down if it needs more mulch, and stake them, and they have deer protection on a lot of them. So the care and nurturing of the trees is impressive.
Hmm.
Hang on a second. He's texting. Oh my gosh, he says his electricity just went out.
Oh no.
Oh no. Oh wait, he said it just came back on. Okay, he's texting me, so we'll give him a minute. But the
Tis the
dedication, and
season.
and they do this for 3 years, so that's a long commitment to take care of them. But the success rate is just incredible, so it's worth
Yeah.
that added time and energy. And yeah,
I'm
sometimes
back.
they I'm telling them about my experiences helping you guys water, so that's
Very
good.
sorry, everyone. My power went out and
That's
Oh,
okay.
it is back
Things
now.
happen.
yep. Tis the season. The weather's crazy.
Yeah.
Hopefully, there's no further issues. Let's get back to the presentation. I think I need to open it again. All right.
Yeah, I was marveling at how much work it must have taken to move so many buckets of water.
Okay, so we're back. And yes, my first couple of years I was with the program, I spent uh, most of my days in the summers helping with the tree crew, and I can tell you, I was an athlete my whole life, and it's tough work. So we really really appreciate our seasonal and temporary staff that help us carry water, and our program would not be nearly as successful without the hard work of those people. So sorry for the hiccup, but I'll jump back into where I was.
Don't
This
forget
is
to
a
share
great.
your
You
screen.
share your screen.
Oh, I thought I did share it.
Nope.
Let's go back to it. Share screen. Okay.
There we
Now,
go.
now we're good. Okay. So you can see on this pie chart the different types of interventions that our maintenance crews perform. Um, the largest section being watering, but we do a lot of other things. We weed each tree in the spring and fall, and as needed during the summer to prevent competition in the critical root zone. We fix stakes and ties that are broken to make sure that those trees have support as they're establishing their roots. Some sites that have aged out of watering, we just do inspections on, make sure everything's hunky dory. We provide mulch for each tree in the spring and the fall to make sure that they retain the water that they need. Uh, it'd be a shame to spend all that time watering and have it all just evaporate out of the soil immediately, especially in those hot months. So we make sure all of our trees are well mulched. And then we also do trash removal, which, while is a small section in this pie chart, is actually probably the most impactful thing that we do in our communities because, as I said, a lot of people have negative experiences and relationships with trees, coming from under-resourced areas. Trees on their private property can be viewed as a liability and a hazard. They might not have the resources to perform proper maintenance on their mature trees at their homes, or it might just not be a priority, or there might be a knowledge uh, gap. So when we are out there picking up trash and people in the neighborhood see us doing that, that they thank us, and that builds a strong uh, relationship with trees in our program. So very impactful, although it's underrepresented in this graph. Another thing that we do twice each year is give away 250 trees. So in the spring of each year, we give away 250, and then again in the fall, we do that. And to me, this is like the gateway for a lot of people into learning about trees. A lot of people don't know about trees or don't care about trees, but people like free things. Who doesn't? And so we work really hard to reach new people this way and get them interested and engaged. And as part of that program, we ask them if they need planting assistance or delivery. And so a certain subset of those people who sign up for the tree adoption, we will actually go to their homes, deliver their trees, and plant them properly for them. Here's some pictures of people picking up their trees, a beautiful red bud in this gentleman's front yard. Another aspect of our Reforest Our City program is our tree steward training program. So those people who adopt a tree, maybe they had never, planted a tree before or thought about the benefits of trees. And so we ask them when they sign up if they're interested in our tree steward training program. And this has been in the past a 4-week, uh, 3-hour Zoom presentation in February. So every Wednesday in February, we would spend 3 hours teaching people about proper planting techniques, proper pruning techniques, how to organize tree plantings in their neighborhood, the history of trees in Cleveland, and all kinds of stuff like that. And then they participate in both a planting lab in the spring, where they come to a tree planting and we demonstrate in person how to properly plant a tree, and as well as a pruning lab. So we teach them some basic pruning techniques so that they can address small issues. Let me emphasize small issues. We don't want people climbing trees in their yards and getting injured, but we don't want them damaging their trees either if they do want to prune them. So if it's something that they can take care of, we give them the knowledge and tools to do so. They all get pruners and a soil knife and a holster upon completion of this program. Some of those tree stewards have gone on to create neighborhood tree coalitions. So Heights Tree People, which I now serve on the board of, I'm from Cleveland Heights. There's a group of tree stewards who decided that they wanted to organize and operate a neighborhood tree coalition. So I can tell you from personal experience that now Heights Tree People plants roughly 100 trees in people's yards for them each year, as well as other tree plantings at public parks, street trees, things of that nature. And this is part of our empowering residents to grow trees and advocate for mature trees. This is another example of a tree steward-led planting. This is Alona Perkins. She's a Cleveland resident. She acquired a vacant lot on the corner of her street and wanted to create a little garden green space for her neighbors to enjoy. So we were able to devote some resources from the Land Conservancy to assist her in this process. And she has about 12 trees on this corner lot. It's a nice little park space. Another way that we advocate for trees, both mature and um, planting new trees, is the Urban Forestry Tree Commission for the city of Cleveland. You can see the picture on the right. This is outdated. The members have changed since then, but I believe 6 out of the 12 members of this commission were trained through our tree steward training. And that's Tom, my manager in the upper right there. He serves on the Urban Forestry Tree Commission as well. And they do a lot of work as far as policy, um, enforcing the tree ordinance for the city of Cleveland, or understanding why it's not enforced, changing policies around um, how the city deals with trees, how the city's planting trees, things of that nature. So here's a map from the county. You can see that the county of Cuyahoga County has a 37-ish% tree canopy, but the city of Cleveland has, this is outdated as well, but because it says 19% and it's lower, far lower than the county average, which is why we focus our energy and our resources in the city of Cleveland, because the smaller municipalities in the suburbs have a better hold and a smaller service area. So they can generally, with some exceptions, manage their trees more effectively than the city of Cleveland, which is large, under resourced, and has some other systemic things working against it. Here's a little case study of some trees that we planted in May of 2018 at a school in the Glenville neighborhood. You can see the trees are relatively small. They're probably bigger than most people would get at, a garden center or something like that. But they're small when we put them in, and they take those 3 years of watering. And then the picture on the right is the tree just before it ages out of our maintenance program. And you can see now it's providing substantial shade, lots of leaf area for insects and other animals. And I don't know, it's just really great to see how much these trees have taken off. And if you don't know, trees grow exponentially to a point. So the first couple of years, they're really settling into their environment, getting their roots established so they can access nutrients and water. And then they start to grow really quickly. And then as they continue to grow after 5-6 years, they really take off, and they'll grow exponentially after that. So to really drive home some of the points that I've been making about how we focus our impact and the different parts of the Reforest Our City program, I wanted to show some maps of events hosted, overlaid with trees planted, overlaid with trees distributed, overlaid with tree stewards trained. So you can see by kind of attacking this problem from many angles, we end up having a great impact. We still have room for improvement. You can see in that near east side area of Cleveland, it's looking pretty empty, and that's really our target area for planting and sourcing tree stewards. And historically, we've underperformed in that area, but we're getting better at it. So just to summarize, that grow, advocate, empower kind of delineation of our program. There's a lot of sub programs that we use to attack all of those things, including our plantings, our tree distributions, our tree steward training, and our tree adoption. So if you feel like it's kind of depressing and this problem is bigger than something that we can actually deal with, I want you to think back to 1969 when the Cuyahoga River caught fire. People at that time probably felt pretty hopeless. They didn't think that the river was ever going to be a place for recreation, or an asset for animals, or a place to enjoy nature. But if you look in August 2023, you can see that we've made huge progress. People use the river for recreation. There are fish in the river now. I don't know if it's at the levels of 1800 or 1900, but much better than 1969. So there's hope. It just takes work and persistence and probably quite a bit of time, but we're here for the long haul. And hopefully we can bring back the moniker or regain the name, the Forest City. So here's my contact info. If you have any questions for me specifically, feel free to email me. And I wanted to leave a lot of time for questions because there are a lot of areas of our program that I did not really touch on, or things that I kind of glossed over really quickly. So I want to open it up for questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Devon. All right, let's see if we have. So right now we don't have any open questions. I do want to say that I have worked with Western Reserve now the entire time that I've been with Ashtabula Soil and Water. We co-hold easements with them, and I know how much time and energy and resources they put into every area that they touch. So it's really it's an honor to keep working with you guys. It's an honor to see what happens. Um, and right now, especially with I am going to get a little political. Right now, especially as people are starting to wonder, why should I pay property taxes when there's so many people that have easements and they don't pay property taxes? Most of the easements that Western Reserve hold pay property taxes. So and where they have property that they're holding that they don't, they end up donating time and resources and money back to townships to make sure that access is available to them to these things, and trees get planted in areas. So they do a lot of restoration work, and they're an amazing organization to work with. So,
Thank you,
okay.
Suzanne.
You are welcome. So we have one question from the chat that says, do you do any education or monitoring for spotted lanternfly?
Um, well, I mean, Devin, go ahead. Do you guys do it when you find egg cases
Yeah,
in the
so
city?
our crew is trained to report instances of spotted lanternfly. I forget the name of the app. It's some weird acronym.
Yeah.
But we do, and then we also do tell residents if they ask us about them, or if they have tree of heaven growing in their yards, we'll let them know they should try to get rid of it or smush the eggs or smush the bugs. Uh, there hasn't been a solution necessarily, a great solution proposed yet, unfortunately. So it's really just education at this point, less problem solving, but something that we do monitor. We haven't had a huge amount on our trees specifically, so fingers crossed that that remains the case.
A
I
couple
just
of questions about, oh, did you want to go ahead? I'm sorry, Renee.
Well, yeah, I wanted to say that I just learned about a funding source that's offering small grants to organizations that are interested in working on spotted lanternfly. Taking like you can use the funding to remove um, the tree of heaven if you have it in your yard or on your properties. So I'll share that with you, Suzanne, and you can share it out after this symposium with people that are watching.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah. Mhm.
So a couple of questions about what tree species do you choose and which ones are most successful in your program?
Yeah, so I'm going to answer that in 1 second. I just want to circle back to the lanternfly, and this will feed into the next question. Um, just last year, as part of a grant that we have through the Office of Minority Health, we've been doing some vacant lot interventions. It's a new type of project and tree planting method that we've been kind of piloting. And so what we've done last year is identify some vacant lots that are prime for nature-based solutions or as green space. And so we'll go in. I'll go in and identify trees to remove, whether they're hazardous because they're dead or dying, or if they're invasive, which is the point I want to bring up. So we removed probably across, I don't know, around 20 lots last year, uh, probably about 20 tree of heaven. So something that I hope that we can expand in the future. It's not something that the city prioritizes right now is, removing the removal of invasive species, but that would probably help a lot with reducing spotted lanternfly. And as far as tree species, it kind of depends on the context. So sometimes we'll plant street trees, you know, kind of in homage to the Children's Outdoor Bill of Rights, those tree-lined streets. And so different trees will do better on tree lawns where there's, not necessarily as much soil volume, or there might be more salts or more pollutants or what have you, than in, say, a park setting or on a vacant lot. So, there are some species that we love. Swamp white oak does well with the clay soil, lack of air in the soil. Um, London plane or American sycamore I prefer, but London plane is very salt hardy. Um, Buckeyes. It really depends on what the neighbors are looking to have, whether it's flowering trees, what constraints we have as far as utilities, whether there's lines overhead, and then just the space.
Is it usually a mix of natives and some introduced species?
I'd say in the time that I've been ordering the trees for the program, it's probably been about 90% native. So
Okay.
very, very much native heavy. We do plant some non-natives, but nothing invasive, obviously.
Okay. And so do you source the tree material and where do you get them from?
Yeah, so we've gone through a couple different iterations of how we source trees. Currently, we use a nursery stock broker. Um, so I'll send a list of our desired trees that we want and the quantity to our broker, and then they will source from nurseries. And I tell them to prioritize local uh, when they can, which is not always possible, but
But
that's how we do it currently.
good. I'm answering a question in the chat right now. The webinar is being recorded and it'll be up on YouTube, hopefully by the end of the week. Let's see. So, okay, we answered that one. That one's done. That one's done. And you source the tree material, so that one's done. Let's see. Oh, so what's the breakdown of funding sources to keep the program running?
Yeah, so uh, that fluctuates, but we have a good mix of public funding and private funding. Um, I mentioned the Office of Minority Health grant that we have. That's been thankfully, and hopefully it continues, but that's been a major source of funding for us. We also rely heavily on corporate donations and private gifts. So yeah, it's a good mix of federal funding, state funding, local funding from the county, uh, funding through the Cleveland Tree Coalition, and private.
Nice. Okay. Do you particularly do you like a particular age of tree to plant?
Yeah, this is kind of controversial, because the city has requirements for when you plant on their property. They
Mm,
want they want 2-inch caliper trees. Um, but the science shows that basically the smaller the tree is, the better it will perform. Um, so if you wanted, maximum efficiency, you would be planting, all saplings and watering them. Uh, there's different models that different cities and organizations use. We generally plant trees that are about 1 to 2 inches caliper, so at about 6 inches from the base, and that's been pretty successful. More successful than if you plant a big 3-inch caliper tree, you have to water that for a lot longer to establish than a smaller tree.
right. Yeah. Did you get any pushback from local government when you started this?
Um, I wouldn't say pushback. but I also wouldn't say cooperation necessarily.
Okay.
um, so I don't know if it's adversarial per se, but over the last 10, 12 years that the program's been operating, I think the landscape as far as how the city supported us, or the county even, has changed for the better. So now we can get money from the county. The city does help fund us as well. They give us money to plant trees and maintain trees because we do it on their property.
Mhm.
Um, not that much in my opinion, but uh, oh, dang, this is recorded.
Since they've been seeing some good outcomes, they're more supportive of it now than they were.
Yeah, and I think we've had to demonstrate proof of concept. So, you can't just go around with open hand. You have to prove that you are an asset and you know what you're doing. And I think we're at the point now where the city trusts us, and they look to us as a preferred partner for tree planting.
Excellent. So someone has a very specific question. What happened to the poor trees on the new opportunity corridor? Did they have a care
I
plan?
did, I did see that question. I was wondering if you would get to it. They might have had a care plan. It wasn't a very good one if they did. I imagine those trees did not get watered.
Ah, okay. So that wasn't you guys.
That was
No.
not us.
Aha. Do you plant in spring or fall? Which do you prefer?
I prefer fall, but we plant in both.
Okay.
I prefer fall because those trees will get, two wet seasons before the hot summer, and they perform better. It's a little species dependent. Some species are better in the spring, but generally, fall plantings are going to perform better.
Okay. So, just since we have a couple of repeat questions, so the species of trees that you're primarily planting, they vary depending on where you are. And the source of your trees varies also with depending on what you're getting.
Yeah.
So a lot of different nurseries around. Are you guys gonna think about maybe starting your own nursery?
I have suggested that. I don't think there's an appetite for that. Running a nursery is very difficult. There are organizations like Western Reserve Land Conservancy. I'm thinking of Tree Pittsburgh in particular that do operate successful nurseries. Um, so there is a model that works. I think it takes a lot of upfront investment, and if you're risk averse, it's not attractive. So ideally, there would be, a state nursery or a county nursery that we could rely on.
Mhm.
The nursery business has been struggling, uh, probably the last couple decades. I think that's declining pretty rapidly. But we do support some local nurseries up in Lake County. Thinking of Brotsman. Um, we get a lot of bare root trees from them. So maybe someday, but not anytime soon.
Yeah. Have you found one species of tree, especially like let's say the street trees, is there anything more resilient than the other ones that you like? That's kind of your go-to?
I mean, you can throw a hackberry in anywhere and it'll live. Uh, there are other issues with hackberry. Their form is not as attractive. They are a little bit messy, so they don't work in every context. But a hackberry is a very resilient, successful tree. River birches are also pretty hard to kill. So, and those are pretty.
So another question here is our sister lives in Slavic Village and has worked on bioswales and lead remediation with trees. Could Devon comment on these efforts and explain what those are?
Yeah. So we also plant in Slavic Village. We have a great relationship with several CDCs in Cleveland, including Slavic Village Development. And one of our sites, one of the first ones that I planted at when I started, um, is right across the street from a soil remediation site that was planted with Holden, and I don't know if the sewer district was involved, but Holden and Slavic Village Development. And so the idea is that the trees aren't going to necessarily remove lead from the ground, um, but over time they improve the soil, and that can render uh, volatile molecules inert in the soil, um, without getting too sciencey. So there are different methods of lead remediation. I think probably the most effective is to just dump a bunch of wood chips on whatever site that you want to remediate. Uh, but yeah, it is a huge problem, especially with the old practice of just collapsing houses that were demolished and leaving everything there. Not just lead, but other heavy metals uh, were kind of just left in the soil to do whatever. The land bank, the county land bank, and the city land bank have since stopped those practices, so they remove all of the debris. So it's not as much of an issue when they take down a house now, but it's something that we're looking into, especially as we ramp up our activity on vacant lots.
Mm-hmm. So are you planting any fruit or nut trees?
Yeah, so we do plant both. I like I love this question because people ask it all the time. They don't want fruit trees, and I'm like, well, most trees are fruit trees technically, um, but they mean messy, smelly fruit. I know what they mean. So we do plant not fruit trees generally. We'll do some. We've done some crab apples and stuff like that, hawthorns, but we have planted nut trees, hickory, pecan, stuff like that. Oaks are nut trees.
Nice. True. Do you work with Davy Tree in Kent?
We do work with Davy. So those vacant lot interventions that I was mentioning through our Office of Minority Health grant, I told you I went and marked all of those Tree of Heaven and other trees to be removed from those vacant lots, and Davy was our contractor partner, so they did all that work.
Nice. Okay. And I think the last question I have here is, do you get any help from the Cuyahoga Master Gardeners in terms of volunteer hours or consultation?
Not as far as I know, but that's something that I would be very interested in growing, especially since, and I can talk in more detail about this. We've worked with the city, the vacant lots and economic development departments of the city to identify ways to reduce the maintenance burden for the city on these vacant lots, because the city has thousands and thousands and thousands of vacant lots that they have to maintain, and that's very expensive. They break equipment because it's not always graded correctly. Um, so we've identified some ways to plant these lots to create kind of a natural area, maybe on half of it, so that they only have to mow the front half or something like that. And we're still figuring out the best way to really create a true natural area. So planting trees on a site, even if you do it densely, does not recreate a forest environment. You need an understory, you need other vegetation. So I'd be very interested in learning more about how we can help develop those areas into more robust ecosystems.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. And so now we have a master gardener that's going to get in touch with you. Fantastic. Thanks, Vicky.
Love it.
Carrie wants to know, why did Bradford calorie pears get such a bad rap? She likes the early April bloom and the shape, but they are invasive.
That
Um,
is one reason that they get a bad rap. They are invasive, they spread, which, if they weren't terrible, wouldn't be that big of a problem. Um, Another issue that they have is they have really weak branch attachment. The way that they grow is very upright and vase shaped. So that's probably what you like about them, similar to like an elm or some other trees, as Zelkova, something like that. The problem with the calorie pear is that the wood is much weaker. And so when they have those poor branch attachments that are very narrow, when they get to a certain weight, they just snap off, which ends up being a vector for disease for the tree. The tree ends up dying, and it's kind of a wasted resource when you could have had a tree that would provide many more benefits in that space instead.
Excellent answer. All right. Well, I think we've covered all of the questions. Thank you both so much for being here. And Renee, I'm sure a lot of these people will be on your January
I look
29th
forward to it.
webinars.
Yes, thank you.
So, all right, I will cut you guys loose. Thank you so much. And we will see you all not next week, but the following week after that. So, thank you and have a
Sounds
great
good.
night.
Thank
Bye,
you all.
everyone. Good evening.